Welcome Cryptopians to Total Crypto Updates, bringing you another video for real deep dives into the crypto industry. I can't promise to only speak about crypto, but I can promise everything will be overstood. Let's dive into today's very dense crypto update. Let's start off today with a special interview everyone has been waiting for. Sam Bankman-Fried was interviewed today by Tiffany Fong, a YouTuber whose persistence and connections landed her the first audio interview with SBF himself. This interview is the first interview taken by SBF since the collapse of FTX. All questions presented were the questions everyone has been asking in the crypto world, and after hearing the answers I still feel like they for 1 foot in 1 foot out answers. Bankman-Fried said that his attorneys had warned him against accepting full responsibility for the disaster. He made the argument that attorneys did not approve of his strategy of making public posts during the interview. I will play a few clips from the audio between SBF and Tiffany Fong.
There was something about a backdoor that allowed you to execute commands that could alter the company's financial records without alerting others that this was put in place. I think that was a Reuters article, which made it seem like you secretly were moving money in the background.
Wait, and this is something that I would be doing?
It kind of said that SBF put like a secret backdoor so that he was moving funds to Alameda and it was undetected. Like this was something that you put into place potentially. I mean, that's how it read.
Well, that's interesting. So that I can tell you is definitely not true. I don't even know how to code, is the honest, embarrassing answer. I certainly wasn't like building some backdoor in the system. I could barely use the system. That's not true. I knew the system pretty well from a user interface perspective. But I literally never have opened the code for any of FTX. So I certainly didn't build a backdoor in there, and I don't know exactly what they're referring to. It's like, let me try and give you the nearest neighbor to that. The like thing that is true that like most resembles that statement, which is that there was a fuck up, which is a long and almost boring story, but basically,
Moving on to SBF thinking it was a mistake to file for bankruptcy. Here is the clip.
So FTX International was separate from FTXUS, and you had stated that FTXUS was solvent. So I was wondering why FTXUS had to go to Chapter 11 as well.
Oh yeah, it's a really good question. Well, you can blame the fucking idiot you're talking to for actually filing this document. I was sort of coerced to doing it, but I should have just said no. I had that right. I probably would have been reported to everyone you could imagine for not doing it, but it would have been worth it because it's the right thing to do to not file. And like, I would give anything to unfile that right now.
You don't feel that FTXUS should have filed for bankruptcy? And well, so if they are completely separate and FTXUS was solvent, then would that mean that FTX customers would expect like a decent recovery? Just because I feel like all the numbers that have been floating around. Sorry?
FTX or FTXUS?
US. Just because the only numbers I've seen floating around, like the Financial Times, the recovery looks pretty slim for...
That's for international.
Yeah.
US is 100%.
So then FTXUS customers could potentially expect decent recoveries then after all this?
If the US team hadn't turned off the Amazon accounts, they could already be withdrawing. You know what the honest answer is? FTXUS was so fucking solvent that even after losing like $250 million to a hack on the way to bankruptcy, it's still solvent. It's about $500 million over.
Next, we have SBF speaking on the donations to the Democratic Party during elections.
I donated to both parties. I donated about the same amount to both parties this year. That was not generally known because despite Citizens United being literally the highest profile Supreme Court case of the decade and the thing everyone talks about when they talk about campaign finance, for some reason, in practice, no one can possibly fathom the idea that someone in practice actually gave dark. So, I don't know, all my Republican donations were dark. If you won't see them. And the reason was not for regulatory reason. It's because reporters freak the fuck out if you donate to a Republican. They're all super liberal and didn't want to have that fight. So I just made all the Republican ones dark. But I was, whatever, second or third biggest Republican donor this year as well. But also, it's all for the primaries. They didn't give anything to general elections. They don't give a shit about general elections. It's not what matters. Like, it's the primaries where you have good candidates against bad candidates.
Moving on to the recovery of FTX and what to expect for the creditors, plus the future of FTX and what's next.
Do you think the numbers that have come out are pretty accurate on what people can expect? Like the Financial Times balance sheet kind of looked like people could expect basically nothing on international.
Well, not nothing. That's not counting like just liquid assets that are there. I think if nothing happens, if I can never do anything again, and they're left to their own devices, eventually U.S. will get a penny on the penny, a dollar on the dollar once they get around to admitting that. And international will get, I don't know, 20, 25 cents on the dollar. So I don't know exactly what, something like that. But I don't know. That's because they got $4 billion sitting here waiting to be injected. If anyone will let us inject it. So.
Well, then, so are you kind of hopeful that FTXUS or FTX International can just like turn back on at some point? Because obviously Chapter 11 is restructuring, so you technically could restructure and reopen in the future. Is that your goal?
They sent me the AWS key beyond tomorrow, and withdrawals would start opening up over the next month. But right now I'm fighting over an AWS key. We'll see. We'll see what I can do. I mean, the embarrassing thing is I was the one who filed. Like, it wasn't even that I'm trying to like usurp someone else's company. I'm trying to usurp my own company, and from the process that I myself started. So and the people who I myself put in charge grudgingly are not happy about that prospect.
So I've been trying to figure out the best way to relay information from my phone calls with Sam, but obviously a lot of nuance and tonality gets lost in Twitter threads. So I figured the most fair and accurate way to represent Sam's responses would be by letting people listen to the audio itself. Just to be clear, I am fully aware that Sam has full incentive to represent himself in as positive a light as possible, so I do take a lot of his answers with a grain of salt, especially without hard evidence. Also, I did provide more context in a previous video, but just to be clear, I am not an official journalist or a reporter. This was my first time interviewing literally anyone ever.
The rest of the interview will be in the description. There is a lot more material in the actual video I think you should take a look at. Moving on to a Russian crypto mogul, mysteriously dies in a helicopter crash. According to the Russian embassy in Paris, Vyacheslav Taran, the creator of Forex Club and Libertex, died suddenly in a strange helicopter crash. Taran was 53 years old. His death was verified. It has been determined that the person who passed away was at the secluded resort town of Villefranche-sur-Mer, which is located on the French Riviera. Due to the fact that Taran was killed in France, the deputy public prosecutor in Nice is the official who is in charge of investigating the collision. He has not ruled out the possibility of participation from a third party, and he will not be able to provide any definitive answers until he has visited the accident scene. Union, a news agency based in Kiev, made the allegations that his business was associated with the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation, also known as the SVR Foreign Espionage Agency, and that this organization was involved in laundering Russian funds through a system of cryptocurrency operations. In that report, Union had neglected to disclose any proof of any kind. Taran leaves behind a wife and 3 kids to live on with his legacy. Next, we have the biggest lending protocol for crypto, halting 17 different volatile lending tokens on the Ethereum network. The protocol for decentralized lending. In an effort to safeguard itself against incurring bad debt as a result of potential market manipulation assaults in the future, Aave has temporarily suspended lending markets for 17 tokens. Aave is the most popular lending protocol on Ethereum, and it now has more than $3.65 billion in assets locked up on a number of different chains. Its decision to temporarily halt lending of several tokens on Aave version 2.0 was passed after governance members approved a proposal from Gauntlet Networks asking to pause assets that are considered to be volatile due to low liquidity profiles on Aave. This resulted in the decision to temporarily halt lending of several tokens. The lending markets are Basic Attention Token, Ampleforth, Yen.Finance, Curve DAO, 0x, Decentraland, 1inch, DeFi Pulse Index, RenFIL and Maker, Engine, XSUSHI, SUSD, GUSD, II, USDP, and LUSD. A significant number of the risk controls that are addressed by Aave v3 are absent in Aave v2, supply caps, borrow caps, isolation mode, E-mode, etc. We suggest placing a temporary freeze on the assets indicated above in an effort to reduce the risk associated with Aave v2 and encourage an eventual migration to v3. This recommendation is made out of an abundance of caution and in light of the community's current reduced risk tolerance. Aave states on their website, "We will consider the best course of action for these assets, delist or relist, depending on factors including liquidity and usage levels." Next on Fox Business, during his conversation with Tucker Carlson on Fox News, Terry Duffy made a mistake. Well, hopefully this was a mistake. Terry Duffy, the CEO of CME Group, gave the impression that he bribed a member of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CTFC. The CME Group, with its headquarters in Chicago, is the most important financial derivatives exchange in the world. It provides futures on Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are essentially options contracts that give investors the ability to place a bet on the price of the asset in the future while also giving them the ability to cash out of the wager at any point before the contract expires. Here is the clip of Terry Duffy admitting to bribing the CFTC.
He was doing. I knew he was a fraud the day I met him, and it was quite easy to pick out.
Well, so you assessed his character and his vibe because you met with him personally, but you also assessed the fundamentals of his company as someone involved in business would. Why did none of the regulators do that? Where was Gary Gensler?
Well, I don't know where Gary Gensler was, but my regulator at the CFTC, I asked them, why in the world are you invoking the Commodity Exchange Act, Section 5, Paragraph B, which says the commission will entertain innovation? It also says in that same part of the act that you will protect market under surveillance and everything else to protect the consumers that are using those markets. They were using that. I want to know, was there pressure put on the agency from politicians or not? And there's hearings coming up. I hope someone has the courage to take on the commissioner of the CFTC and others and ask them why they were trying to put a round hole in a square peg. They should have dismissed his proposal out of hand. Instead, I was forced to go into Congress, get berated by people that don't know what they're talking about, and I told them what could potentially happen. And again, it did.
That will conclude today's update on trending news in the crypto world. Thank you for watching if you made it all the way through. Stay tuned, we are an active administration. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Never be afraid to voice your opinion. Tell us in the comments what you think, and give us some suggestions on what kind of content you'd like us to deep dive into. Until next time, good day, good night, and goodbye.